I'll talk about Desmond Ridder in Atlanta. I know there's a lot of whisperings, and maybe those whispers have turned into regular level voices and maybe even some shouts through a megaphone to potentially go to Desmond Ridder right off the bat. This was my quarterback one coming into this past draft class, and he was my QB1 because I thought that he just understood the position so well. His translation to the NFL, maybe he wasn't going to be a full-time face of the franchise kind of a guy, but he was somebody whose floor to me was so high because of the things that he already did really, really well. He understood the position very well, played with a ton of confidence over the last 2 years at Cincinnati. The mechanics have become so flawless, it felt like, from his toes all the way up through his shoulders, and how that throwing motion was releasing the ball exactly where he wanted to go. And I think you saw that a lot over his last 2 years. So now he goes to Atlanta, right? And he's in a quarterback competition, sort of competition, with Marcus Mariota, who former number 2 overall pick himself from the 2015 NFL draft, the guy who had a lot of promise, went through a ton of offensive coordinators in Tennessee, no consistency there, had a lot of injuries, ended up playing with the Las Vegas Raiders last year and looked good, right? And I think that that's why he's got this opportunity to start for, albeit a team that's probably not going to make the playoffs, but another starting shot nonetheless. Desmond Ridder comes in this preseason, and I think he looked pretty damn good, man. He had a 70.9 overall passing grade in this preseason, had an elite PFF passing grade in that second game of the season, in which he looked pinpoint accurate against the New York Jets when the Falcons were playing against the Jets. It's not like Ridder has not come with his mistakes. He certainly has, but he's definitely shown you areas of his game where he's got a lot of promise, especially when it comes to working with things very on script. When the offensive line holds up, when the play action's working well, he is able to see the field, I think, really well from a pre-snap perspective, which doesn't always happen as a rookie. And because of that, you're seeing him very confident. He's stepping into throws. He knows where to look. The ball's coming out of his hand very quickly. All of these things are there for Desmond Ridder to think, okay, if you play him in the regular season, maybe you're not really throwing him into the wolves at a negative standpoint. Yeah, I think that Desmond Ridder would still struggle if we got to the regular season, but it's not like it would be hopelessly struggling, like you would be ruining him or something. I think that his processing is to the point where he is beyond that kind of damage to what would be a really nice start to his NFL career. The reason why I'm bringing Desmond Ridder up, though, is it's pretty entrenched right now that Mariota is going to start for this team. But should he long-term, I'm not sure, because I don't expect this Falcons team to be very good this year. I think the Falcons are heading towards a top 10 pick in the 2020
I'd say top 5
NFL
right now.
draft. I'm kind of being nice. Could very well be in the top 5. Could very well even be in the top 3. If that's the case, you got to know what you have in Desmond Ridder, right? Like you've got to play him because of what I brought up earlier. This quarterback class has a chance to be something that's special. And Atlanta does not want to be in a situation like they were in 2020, right? 2021, where Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, all these quarterbacks were kind of there for the taking, not exactly for Atlanta at 3 because there were 3 quarterbacks off the board, but they ended up not taking a quarterback at 4, and they ended up, I don't think, getting aggressive to be in the top 3 or anything like that because they thought they had the situation with Matt Ryan. Now, things soured because of their involvement with Deshaun Watson. I get all that stuff. But ultimately, you don't want to be, if you're the Falcons, the team that passed on a quarterback at the top of the 2021 NFL draft and 2023 if 2023 ends up being really, really good. So I just think that that was kind of a word vomit to say I'm excited about Desmond Ridder. Desmond Ridder showed really nice promise in the preseason. He's understanding the game really well. It does not look too big for him. He looks like a pro already. And you got to know what you're getting with Desmond Ridder if this quarterback class is going to manifest itself for a year from now. You've got to know what you've got and whether or not you can you want to dip into that. So that's kind of my Desmond Ridder take from the preseason.
And phenomenal. I completely agree. I look at that situation. Listen, you and I, pretty, majority of the time, our job focus is on the direction of NFL franchises, right? Big picture. It's always good when you can put a team in a bucket, one way or the other. It could be a team that's clearly rebuilding, a team that's clearly contending, and there's a lot of categories that go in the middle of that. I struggle in this era of Falcons football to figure out what they want to be. And I think that it's pretty clear that with Matt Ryan gone now, a guy that you didn't want to, do any wrong by for how important he was to that franchise, that they are leaning towards a future where their franchise quarterback of the future is most likely not on the roster right now. It's not Marcus Mariota. I don't see this resurgence, this Ryan Tannehill resurgence, with Arthur Smith there. I think Ridder, a guy that I wasn't very high on, to be optimistic. Whether how people feel about him, you're right, Trevor. You need to know. He started for 4 years in college. This isn't Trey Lance coming out of the FCS. This isn't Malik Willis coming out of Liberty.
Right.
This isn't. Yeah. This guy played for 4 years at Cincinnati and played in some big time football games. See what you have. Find out what you have in him. And if he blows away your expectations, really only throwing to hopefully a healthy Drake London and obviously Kyle Pitts, then if he blows away those expectations, you're going to win more games than obviously somebody like me thinks that they'll be picking in the top 5, where then you're going to build around him. And listen, even if it doesn't work out in that 2 to 3 year window, he flashes this year, but hey, it didn't work out after that, you at least gave it a fair shot. You didn't just, wing it. So I really want to know what the Falcons are, and playing Marcus Mariota, that doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't tell me anything at all. And right. When I say that they're a team that I expect to be picking in the top 5 for Falcons fans listening, I don't really think that's a bad thing for your franchise. It's because this is a team that knows they need a reset at quarterback. And this, in our eyes, is a pretty good quarterback class where even when you get past CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, there's guys that could potentially be top 5 quarterback picks this year with a good season. So I love the take. I want Ridder to play this year because I don't want him to be in a situation where we just don't know.
Right.
They draft another guy, right? Like, what is the point of that?
That's the worst. The worst place to be is in this gray area purgatory if you're Atlanta, because it felt like that was the case even in 2021, even before the Deshaun Watson courting things pissed Matt Ryan off and got Matt Ryan out of there. You were basically looking, okay, how much longer is Matt Ryan going to be there? Like, am I just resetting now anyways? So I think they want to get ahead of a lot of that.